Okay, so today's topic is about Parkinson's disease. Okay, so I'm not sure. Yeah, in physiology classes you might have heard. So let us try to review the disease a little bit, and then we'll go for the drugs acting on Parkinson's disease. So some general, epidemiological data. Annual incidence is zero point 0.2 per thousand, and prevalence is 1.5 per thousand. So prevalence rates are similar throughout the world, except bit lower rates in China and West Africa. So China and West Africa records a lesser incidence of the so it affects 1% of those over 55 years. Okay, so basically it is a illness of the middle-aged and aged. 1.5% of the people of age 70 to 79 years are affected. So it is basically an illness of the middle-aged and aged. Generally, it occurs between 50 to 80 years. So it is equal in both males and females. Anti-Parkinsonian drugs are drugs that have a therapeutic effect in Parkinsonism. Now, what is Parkinsonism? Parkinsonism is a motor disorder characterized by TRAP. You can note the mnemonics as TRAP, T for tremor, R for rigidity, A for abnormal movements or hypokinesia, okay, and P for defective posture. The person affected person becomes stooped out, and then he walks slowly. There is a gait problem, there is a tremor, so all these things will be there. The most common cause of Parkinsonism is idiopathic Parkinson's disease. So Parkinsonism is an umbrella. Under that, Parkinson's disease is one entity, one element. So the most common cause of Parkinsonism is if it is idiopathic. If the cause is not known, then we put it under Parkinson's disease. Some of the Parkinson's disease, the cause is known, that is atherosclerotic changes. Means the blood vessels supplying the concerned CNS portions, they are atherosclerotic. Rare causes of Parkinson's disease include aging, genetic factors, and environmental toxins such as MPTP, that is N-methyl 4-phenyl tetrahydropyridine. So that's a toxin. MPTP is a toxin. So the toxin exposure, particularly in some industries like the lead industries, where the people work in with the lead, so there they are more prone for Parkinson's disease. Excess of glutamate. Excess of glutamate, excitotoxic, neuronal death. What is this background sound? Okay. So pathology. What has happened in the central nervous system structures? Substantia nigra. So it's a midbrain structure. In this midbrain structure, it will be depletion of the pigmented dopaminergic neurons. See, this is actually the Parkinson's disease section. This is the normal brain section where the pigmented dopaminergic neurons are present. Here they are not present. Please mute who is creating this disturbance, background disturbance. It is a nuisance for the entire class.
Sugur.
So Femina Najima is not in front of the system. Hmm? Okay. So levodopa actions. So where all this levodopa acts? So we have come somewhere. Okay. So substantia nigra is the one which is there. The dopamine has to be present in the normal concentration. So if it is not there, if it becomes like this, then there is a problem. Depletion of neurons in the locus coeruleus, raphe, cortex, and other areas. So these are all the pathology what is seen in Parkinson's disease. Lewy bodies, characteristic, which is eosinophilic cytoplasmic inclusions in the nigral cells. So these are all eosinophilic cytoplasmic inclusions in the cell bodies. So all these, if they are present, they will be present in the Parkinson's disease pathology. That's a pathology. The basic thing here is a disconnection between the dopamine and the cholinergic system. Lack of dopamine, excess of relative excess of acetylcholine or cholinergic system, that is the cause for the problem. Okay, so excess acetylcholine and lack of dopamine, that is the basic cause for Parkinson's disease, which you need to register clearly. Now, how does it manifest? Parkinson's disease manifests onset usually gradually after the age of 50, we know that. So basic main things are bradykinesia, that is a loss of normal arm swinging. Okay, so not normal movement is lost actually. So when they walk, the arms have to swing, they won't swing. The blinking of the eyelids has to happen, it won't happen. Loss of the ability to swallow. Okay, blank expression, difficulty in initiating the movement, all these problems will be there. Muscle rigidity, resistance, passive movement, resistance to passive movement, cogwheel jerky, slow movement will be seen, and tremors will be seen. Tremors is called a pill rolling kind of a movement. So like a pill, if you roll it, unwinding the pills like that, in that moment, in that direction, the movement will be there. Blank mass, expressionless face will be there. Stupid posture is there. So all these things are all physical findings of the Parkinson's disease. These findings, they appear only when more than 60 to 80% of the dopamine in the, so in the midbrain is lost. Till then, the symptoms won't occur. Body manages with whatever available dopamine up to that level. Now, coming to the classification of the drugs, what we take, what drugs we take, what drugs are available for the management of Parkinson's disease. They include two broad classification: one, dopaminergic axis acting drugs; two, cholinergic axis acting drugs. Now, first, dopaminergic acting drugs are dopamine precursor includes levodopa, peripheral decarboxylase inhibitor, that means which prevents the degradation of levodopa, that is carbidopa and benzodiazide. Dopamine agonists means these drugs, they go directly and bind to the dopamine receptors and bring about the action. They include bromocriptine or pergolide, and as ropinirole, pramipixole. So these are the four drugs which go directly to the dopamine receptors and bind. MAOB inhibitor. So dopamine is metabolized by three axes. One is peripheral decarboxylase. Decarboxylase enzyme, it metabolizes almost 70 to 80% of the levodopa in this metabolized through this enzyme. Now left out few percentage only. So this may be another 10% and this may be another 5%. Only that much level of the drug dopamine levodopa is metabolized by these enzymes. So if you block these enzymes, the availability of the levodopa in the body increases. That's the thought process behind generating these drugs. Okay, so this one, peripheral decarboxylase inhibitor. Next is MAO inhibitor and COMT inhibitor. These are all again enzymes. Okay, monoamino oxidase, catechol-methyl transferase is an enzymes. So these enzymes, they metabolize the levodopa. So, but their metabolism is at a lesser rate, and hence their usage is also lesser. So MAOB inhibitor include salicyline and arsacycline, and COMT inhibitors include entacapone and tolcapone. Dopamine facilitator, it is amantadine. These are all the drugs which were acting through the dopamine mechanisms. Next is the cholinergic mechanism. Drugs affecting the brain cholinergic system, central anticholinergics. It blocks the cholinergic system in the midbrain. Trihexyphenidyl, procyclidine, and piperidine. Antihistaminics. These antihistaminics also have anticholinergic activity and therefore they are used. They include orphanedrine, promethazine, and benzatropine. Now comes dopamine precursor. The main drug used in the Parkinson's disease is levodopa. So dopamine precursor, levodopa. Levodopa has a specific effect in Parkinson's disease exceeding that of any other drug used alone. So far better than any other drug used alone. So this drug plays a central role. It is inactive but active precursor of dopamine. So dopamine is actually the neurotransmitter. So this being inactive per se, it becomes active when it is multiplied, when it is converted into dopamine. More than 95% of the oral dose is decarboxylated in the periphery, which is further metabolized. See, the problem with this enzyme in this drug, levodopa, is majority of it is converted to the active form outside the CNS. So more than 95% is converted to levodopa outside the CNS. So if that happens, very little drug enters the brain, and unwanted adverse effects occurs in the periphery. That is something which you need to keep in mind. The remaining dopamine acts on the heart. See, it is acting on the heart, which we don't want. Acting on the heart, blood vessels, and other peripheral organs or chemoreceptor trigger zones. About 1 to 2% enters the brain. It is taken up by surviving dopaminergic neurons used for actions. Okay, so very less amount enters the brain, and we depend on the that less amount that is entering into the brain. Patients who had responded well to levodopa had higher dopamine levels. So those is quite natural, isn't it? So if they have responded well to levodopa, the brain dopamine levels are high. Levodopa actions on the central nervous system. So majority of it is metabolized in the periphery itself. But whatever reaches the central nervous system, what it does, let us see, hardly produces any effect in normal individuals. So in normal individuals, even if this extra dose comes, they will manage it. Marked symptomatic improvement is seen in Parkinsonian patients, but in Parkinsonian patients, marked symptomatic improvement is seen. Hypokinesia and rigidity resolve first. Abnormal movements and rigidity, they come down, and later other symptoms gradually reversed. The effect of levodopa on behavior is described as general alerting response progressing to frank psychosis. That means in the behavior, it tries to alert the person in overall, but then later on it progresses to frank psychosis. CVS, the peripherally formed dopamine causes tachycardia. So it acts on the beta receptors present on the heart. So dopamine, yes, dopamine is an adrenergic adrenergic neurotransmitter. So it acts on the beta receptor and increases the heart rate. Postural hypotension is central and ganglionic action. So see, centrally when it acts, it causes a kind of a hypotension, and acting on the ganglion, it it causes a hypotension. Though it can cause tachycardia, but on the blood pressure, it causes a hypotension. So these are the effects of the peripherally acting dopamine. Chemoreceptor trigger zone, it is also outside the blood brain barrier, though it is in the brain, but it is outside the blood brain barrier. So dopamine easily reaches there. Peripheral dopamine also acts there, and it causes nausea, vomiting, and a gradual kind of a tolerance develops to that. Endocrine acts on the pituitary gland and decreases the prolactin release. So it decreases the prolactin release. It is rapidly absorbed from the small intestine. Levodopa undergoes high first pass metabolism because it's a neurotransmitter. Body recognizes it, and as a defense mechanism, it causes a high first pass metabolism in the gastrointestinal mucosa and liver. About only 1% enters the brain. So plasma T half is only 1 to 2 hours. The metabolites are excreted in the urine after conjugation. Levodopa adverse effects. The side effects are frequent and troublesome because it is an active neurochemical, most dose related and usually reversible. So these adverse effects of levodopa can be classified as at the initiation of the therapy and after initiation, after time initiation of the therapy. So at the initiation, when you begin the therapy, it can be minimized by starting with the low dose. Start with the low dose, so the adverse effects will also be lesser. Nausea, vomiting occurs in almost every patient. Postural hypotension occurs in about one third of patients, mostly asymptomatic, more common in those treated with antihypertensives. Cardiac arrhythmias, exacerbation of angina, alteration of taste sensation. So these things are very common, acting on the beta receptors on the heart, in the chemoreceptor trigger zone, causing nausea and vomiting, and on the ganglion causing postural hypotension. So these are all the adverse effects, common adverse effects of the levodopa. After prolonged therapy, maybe after a few months of therapy, what problems it can arise? It can cause again abnormal movements, dyskinesia per se. So it was used for dyskinesia, but it can cause dyskinesia per se. Behavioral effects it can cause, and fluctuation in the motor performance. What is this abnormal movements? Facial tics, grimacing, tongue thirsting. So after a few months and affect almost all. They reduce with dose reduction. Behavioral effects range from mild anxiety to severe depression, mania, and psychosis. Levodopa is contraindicated in psychotic patients. Okay, because it's again it has dopamine increases means there is a problem with the psychosis. So levodopa is contraindicated in psychotic patients. Please note that. After 2 to 5 years of therapy, symptom control fluctuation can occur. End of the dose deterioration, initially gradual, later rapid switches on and off effect. That means when the medicine is given, the medicine acts and the symptoms subside. And at the by the end of the half life, suddenly the symptoms start appearing. That is called on-off effect. Okay, so this occurs after a few years of treatment, when the damage to the dopaminergic neurons occurs more. At that time, this on and off effect comes. This on and off effect is a challenge in the management of Parkinson's disease. So initially, when they give the medicine, suddenly the symptoms subside, and suppose if the T half is 4 hours, by 3.5 hours, suddenly the symptoms start coming up, and that is a on effect. Okay, so off is symptoms off, on is symptoms on. So that way, if you consider the moment you give the drug, symptoms will be off, and then by 3.5 hours or so, the symptoms will be on again. So this is a great challenge for the treatment, and only few drugs act on the on-off mechanisms. Cautious use. No, levodopa has to be cautiously used in elderly, in ischemic heart disease and cardiovascular disease patients, and in psychiatric patients, hepatic and renal disease, peptic ulcer, glaucoma, interactions, pyridoxine, that is a vitamin B6, it abolishes the therapeutic effect of levodopa. So it should never be combined. Phenothiazines and butyrophenones, these are all antipsychotics. So antipsychotics should not be used. Metoclopramide should not be used. They reverse the effect of the by blocking the dopamine receptors. Interactions, non-selective MAO inhibitors, that is monoamino oxidase inhibitors, prevent peripheral degradation of dopamine and noradrenaline. Hypertensive crisis it can cause. Antihypertensive drugs can cause postural hypotension. Atropine and anti-Parkinsonian anticholinergic drugs, they have additive action. They are good for the drug interactions part. So next comes the peripheral decarboxylase inhibitor. So what we learned so far was levodopa, the central portion of the management of Parkinson's disease. Now this one inhibits the peripheral metabolism of levodopa and enhances the amount of levodopa that is entering the central nervous system. Okay, so this is a drug, hand in hand drug with the levodopa. So that is a peripheral decarboxylase inhibitor. It includes carbidopa, benzerazide, and these are extracerebral dopa decarboxylase inhibitors. That means they don't cross the blood-brain barrier. They inhibit the levodopa conversion to dopamine in the outside the CNS. So they do not penetrate the brain. Administered along with levodopa, they increase its T half in the periphery and increase its amount entering the brain. Benefits of this combination, that is levodopa plus carbidopa or benzerazide, plasma T half of the levodopa is prolonged. So T half of the plasma is prolonged and dose can be reduced to almost one fourth. Systemic concentration of dopamine is reduced. Nausea, vomiting, and not prominent. Cardiac complications are minimized. On-off effect is minimized as cerebral dopamine levels are sustained. So whatever is given, it acts for a longer time and it is slowly metabolized. So therefore the on and off effect is minimized. The carbidopa benzerazide unresolved or accentuated problems occur because involuntary movements and behavioral abnormalities continue. So even though when you give together, sometimes the involuntary movements and behavioral abnormalities they continue. They both together when they are given, it causes excess daytime sleepiness in some. When the levodopa concentration is more, excess daytime sleepiness in some, and postural hypotension in others. This combination is called as co-chiral dopa. So this is the name given to the combination of levodopa and decarboxylase inhibitor, as currently they are mainly administered together. So they are administered together in this combination. So carbidopa, that is the enzyme inhibitor, peripheral decarboxylase enzyme inhibitor, which increases the levodopa entry into the CNS, can be given in the doses of 10, 25, 25, and levodopa can be given in the doses of 100, 100 or 250 milligrams. Next class of drug is dopaminergic agonists. Means these drugs, they go directly and bind to the dopaminergic receptors and act similarly how the dopamine is acting. This is dopaminergic agonistic drugs. The drug include bromocriptine, propinerol, and pramipexole. They act on the striatal dopaminergic receptors, that is midbrain dopaminergic receptors. Even in advanced patients, they act. So they are useful in the advanced patients also. They are much longer acting. Therefore, they are beneficial. Bromocriptine, an ergot derivative, a potent D2 agonist, partial agonist or antagonist at D1 receptors. Dopamine has various receptors in the midbrain, starting from D1 to D5. So you can read out them for your beneficial, but for the uh, academic purposes, if it is enough if you know this much. An ergot derivative, a potent D2 agonist, and partial agonist or antagonist at the D1 receptor. So the onset occurs, the beneficial effects occurs within half an hour to 1 hour, and action lasts for 6 to 10 hours. Used alone needs a high dose. associated with many adverse effects such as vomiting, hallucination, hypertension, etc. So, used alone needs a high dose, but it can be given along with the dopamine also, and the adverse effects are high. It is replaced by newer congeners. The bromocriptine is older one. It is associated with lot of adverse effects, but the newer ones like the ropinirole and pramipixole, they are not associated with that much adverse effects. So replaced by newer congeners used in late stages along with levodopa to improve the control of on and off phenomenon. See, because this is a agonist, go directly to the receptor binds, so it is effective even at the large last stages. Now comes ropinirole and pramipixole, the other two drugs in the dopaminergic agonist group. They selectively D2 D3 receptor agonists with negligible D1 activity. Therapeutic and adverse effects. See, this goes for 10 minutes, 10 more minutes. I think definitely we may require few more minutes. We will log into the same link if the connection goes off. Selective D2 D3 receptor agonists with negligible D1 activity, therapeutic and adverse effect profile similar to bromocriptine but better tolerated. Both are now frequently used as monotherapy for early Parkinson's disease. Results are better than levodopa. Adverse effects: nausea, dizziness, hallucinations, hypotension, and daytime sleepiness. Ropinirole is administered at a 0.25 milligram TDS and pramipixole is administered at 0.125 milligram TDS. Selegiline, now another class of drug. We heard that dopamine decarboxylase is the major enzyme which metabolizes the levodopa to dopamine. Now, when that is blocked, the excess amount of the levodopa, instead of going to the dopamine decarboxylase, it goes to the two other enzymes, that is a MAOB and COMT. So these two enzymes needs to be inhibited also. Otherwise, the benefit whatever is got by inhibiting dopamine decarboxylase will be washed away by these two enzymes, MAOB inhibitor and COMT inhibitors. Now coming to MAOB inhibitors, selegiline. Selegiline is a selective and a irreversible MAOB inhibitor. In low doses, it does not interfere with peripheral metabolism of dietary amines, but intracerebral degradation of dopamine is retarded. Okay, so in the brain, whatever is the levodopa that is being degraded to dopamine, it is inhibited. Higher doses can produce hypertensive interactions with levodopa and indirectly acting sympathomimetic amines. So if you give excess doses, it can produce hypertensive interactions with levodopa and indirectly acting sympathomimetic amines. Administered with levodopa, it prolongs levodopa action, beneficial in 50 to 70% of patients. But advanced cases are not improved, and adverse effects such as dyskinesia, confusion, etc. may appear. Clinical benefits derived are short-lived. That means with only by 6 to 26 months, after that it fades away. Then adverse effects occur which include postural hypotension, confusion, nausea, increase of levodopa induced involuntary movements and psychosis, insomnia and agitation. Contraindication: convulsive disorders, drug interactions with pethidine, tricyclic antidepressants, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors. It is all seen. Drug interactions with all these drugs are seen. The dosage is 5 milligrams to 10 milligrams. Rasagiline is another drug in the same class, that is the MAOB inhibitor. It's a newer MAOB inhibitor similar to selegiline, 5 times more potent, longer acting. It is not metabolized to amphetamine. It does not produce excitatory side effects. Therefore, given once a day, 1 milligram OD. Now comes the other class, that is the COMT inhibitors. COMT inhibitors entacapone and tolcapone. Both these are potent and reversible catecholomethyl transferase inhibitors, adjuvants to levodopa carbidopa for advanced Parkinson's disease. So they are not given in the early stages. In the advanced stage, this combination is given. When peripheral decarboxylation of levodopa is blocked by carbidopa, it is mainly metabolized by COMT to 3-methyl dopa. So this is what I was telling. When something is blocked by carbidopa, some drugs block the carbidopa metabolism, it goes to the COMT metabolizing pathway. So blockade of this pathway prolongs the T half of levodopa and allows larger fraction to enter the brain. So at that time you need to block even the COMT pathway. Entacapone and tolcapone, they may have some weak central effect. They may be used to smoothen the wearing off. Dosage in it comes entacapone 200 mg with each dose of levodopa carbidopa. Maximum is 1600 milligram per day. Tolcapone 100 to 200 milligram BD or TDS. Adverse effects. Levodopa related adverse effects can occur such as nausea, vomiting, dyskinesia, etc. It can be handled by minimizing the levodopa dose. Diarrhea in 10 to 18% individuals and yellow-orange discoloration of urine is seen. Point to be noted is tolcapone is suspended in EU and Canada because of the reports of fatal hepatitis and rhabdomyolysis. However, it is still being marketed in US. Amantadine. So this is a different class. It is a glutamate NMDA receptor antagonist, dopamine facilitator. Amantadine develops as an anti-influenza drug, but however, accidentally people found out that it is beneficial even in the Parkinsonism. This acts rapidly but has lower efficacy than levodopa. I hope all of you have typed your names and roll numbers in the chat window for attendance. If not done, please do it. Many of you are missing your attendance. It becomes difficult that who have attended the class, I need to give the attendance for you. So do type the names and your roll numbers in the chat window right now. Okay. So amantadine acts rapidly but has a lower efficacy than levodopa. About two-thirds of patients are benefited. Some majority of them are benefited. Mechanism of action. Amantadine promotes presynaptic synthesis and release of dopamine in the brain. Has anticholinergic activity as well. An antagonistic action at NMDA glutamate receptors at striatal dopaminergic receptors. But tolerance develops over months and the efficacy is gradually lost. Amantadine can be used in milder cases with, in short courses to supplement levodopa. Dose 100 milligrams BD. Effect lasts 8 to 12 hours. Side effects generally not serious. Insomnia, restlessness, confusion, anticholinergic effects. Livido reticularis, it's a strange occurrence at the ankles. local release of the catecholamines. They go and constrict the post capillary blood vessels. I mean, post capillary vasoconstriction occurs. So, post capillary vasoconstriction and dilation of the blood vessels at the ankles is livido reticularis. So, that occurs as a complication with amantadine, increased when combined with anticholinergics. Now, central anticholinergic. This is the last class of the drugs. So, anticholinergics, trihexyphenidyl, benzoxal, procyclidine, piperidine, orphanedrine, and promethazine. The last two are actually antihistaminics. You can call them as antihistaminics. Okay. So, these drugs have a higher central peripheral anticholinergic action compared to atropine. They have a similar pharmacological profile as of atropine. No criteria to choose between them